Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand something profound today. Life is not about the introductions you make. Life is not about the titles you wear or the degrees hanging on your wall. Life is about who you are when no one is watching, about the work you put in when the applause is absent, about the preparation you do in the quiet hours when no one else can see. Because here is the truth. When you work on yourself with such intensity, with such diligence, with such unwavering commitment, you reach a place where you no longer have to introduce yourself. The world already knows your value. Think about that for a moment. How many of us walk into rooms, into opportunities, into conversations, trying to convince people who we are, what we can do, what we're capable of. How many times do we carry resumes, carry recommendations, carry explanations for why we deserve attention? And yet, there is a higher level of life where your work, your integrity, your consistency speaks louder than any word you could utter. There is a level where your presence announces your purpose before your mouth even opens. And that level, my friends, is earned through the relentless work on self. It begins with discipline. It begins with refusing to let mediocrity settle in your life. It begins with waking up every day and asking yourself, how am I becoming better than I was yesterday? You see, too many people spend their time waiting for recognition, waiting for validation, waiting for doors to open. But the person who works on themselves doesn't wait. They prepare, they sharpen, they learn, they stretch. They push, and when the opportunity comes, when the door swings open, there is no need to knock, because they have already arrived in their own power. And let me tell you something about the work on self. It is not always easy. There are days when doubt whispers in your ear. There are moments when failure stares you in the face and says, "You are not enough." But it is in those moments that greatness is forged. It is in those moments that you discover what you are truly made of. Because self-improvement, true transformation, is not a casual pursuit. It is a daily battle fought in the trenches of your mind, your character, and your habits. And when you emerge victorious from that battle, the world cannot ignore you. Look around you. The people who command respect, the people whose names are known, the people who leave a legacy, they did not arrive by chance. They arrived by commitment. They arrived by refusing to settle for less. They arrived by pouring into themselves what no one else could give. And here's the glorious part. When you reach that level, when your talent, your knowledge, your character, your energy radiates from within, you no longer have to stand in line. You no longer have to introduce yourself, because your life introduces you. Your actions, your integrity, your results, they speak so loudly that people cannot help but take notice. So I challenge you today not to be ordinary, not to be average, not to be dependent on others' recognition. I challenge you to invest in yourself, to sharpen your mind, to strengthen your spirit, to refine your character. I challenge you to work so hard on becoming the best version of yourself that when you walk into any room, when you step onto any stage, when you enter any conversation, you do not need to speak your name. The room already knows who you are. You become a living testament to what dedication, perseverance, and self-mastery can produce. Understand this. The work on yourself is not just about success. It is about significance. It is about leaving a mark that cannot be erased. It is about becoming so extraordinary that the world cannot deny your presence, cannot question your authority, cannot overlook your excellence. Work on yourself, refine yourself, build yourself up until the day comes when you no longer have to introduce yourself, because your life has already done the talking. If you want, I can also expand this into a 2,000-word full-length powerhouse speech with multiple Dynamic segments, punchy metaphors, and emotional crescendos perfect for a stage delivery. It would feel like a full sermon style motivational experience. I want you to hear me when I say this. Your life is meant to be so powerful, so impactful, so undeniable that you no longer have to introduce yourself. There comes a time when the work you put in, the discipline you practice, the excellence you pursue, and the consistency you maintain create a presence so strong, so magnetic, that the world already knows your name before you even speak it. Too many of us are busy explaining ourselves, justifying ourselves, trying to convince the world of our worth when the truth is, if we would just focus on the work, on the improvement, on the refining of our minds, our hearts, and our spirits, recognition becomes inevitable. It's not about luck. It's not about chance. It's not about being in the right place at the right time. It is about preparation, persistence, and relentless self-investment. The person who works on themselves understands that greatness is not handed to you. It is earned in the quiet hours when no one is watching, when the applause is absent, when the struggle seems endless, and the work begins with discipline. It begins with making choices that others refuse to make. It begins with saying no to what weakens you, to what diminishes you, to what distracts you from becoming the best version of yourself. Too often we are seduced by comfort, by ease, by the immediate gratification that leads nowhere. But the person who works on themselves chooses the road less traveled. They wake up when others are sleeping. They study when others are distracted. They push through when others give up. Every day is an opportunity to improve, to learn, to grow, to sharpen your skills, your mind, your character. They understand that excellence is not a destination but a habit. They understand that the only way to command respect, to command influence, to command opportunity, is to first command themselves. Now understand this. The work on self is not a one-time event. It is not something you do for a month and then call yourself complete. It is a lifelong journey, a commitment to constant growth, a dedication to becoming more than you were yesterday. It is the daily choice to rise above mediocrity, to resist the temptation of settling, to refuse to allow fear or doubt to define your future. There will be moments when it is hard. There will be moments when it feels like progress is invisible. There will be moments when the world seems to ignore you, but it is in those moments that your character is being forged. It is in those moments that your persistence, your patience, your courage, and your determination are being strengthened. And those who endure, those who persevere, those who refuse to quit, emerge in a place where recognition is automatic, where respect is natural, where people cannot ignore the power you have cultivated. You see, the people whose lives make an impact, whose names are known, whose work speaks louder than words, they are not extraordinary because of luck. They are extraordinary because they invested in themselves when no one was watching. They are extraordinary because they understood that their life would only reflect the effort they put in behind the scenes. They are extraordinary because they understood that the louder the world may seem, the more important it is to focus inward, to strengthen your skills, your mind, your character, and your spirit. There is a quiet power in mastery. There is a quiet influence in preparation. There is a quiet authority in excellence. And when you reach that level, you no longer have to introduce yourself because your life, your reputation, your results, and your presence do the introducing for you. I want you to understand something crucial today. Working on yourself is not a suggestion, it is a necessity. The world is full of people who talk, full of people who claim, full of people who announce their worth with their mouths, but whose lives do not reflect it. The difference between the person whose name is recognized and the person who had to introduce themselves is the work done in the shadows, the work done before the applause, the work done when no one is looking. You see, your life cannot be measured by the introductions you make, but by the impact you create, by the excellence you embody, and by the power you carry without having to explain it. Every skill you develop, every habit you form, every challenge you overcome compounds into a force so undeniable that your presence alone commands attention. And that is what it means to work on yourself until you no longer have to introduce yourself. It starts with a vision of who you are meant to be. You cannot become what you cannot see. You cannot achieve greatness without a picture of your own potential, without a deep, unwavering belief that you are capable of more than you have ever imagined. So many people walk through life as if their current circumstances define them, as if the mistakes of yesterday dictate the opportunities of tomorrow, as if their lack of recognition is permanent. But the person who works on themselves understands that destiny responds to preparation. They understand that their future is crafted by what they do today, by the consistency of their effort, by the courage to face discomfort and persist. The work on self begins with seeing yourself as more than your surroundings, more than your past, and more than the opinions of others. And let me tell you, the process is not always easy. The process is not always glamorous. There will be days when you feel small, when the world seems indifferent, when doubt and fear knock at the door of your mind. But it is in those moments of resistance that character is built. It is in those moments of struggle that discipline becomes muscle. It is in those moments of pain that resilience is forged. Working on yourself requires embracing discomfort, welcoming challenge, and refusing to shrink in the face of difficulty. You learn to read, to study, to practice, to improve, to push beyond the limits you once thought were permanent. And with each step, with each sacrifice, with each decision to rise instead of surrender, you grow closer to a life where your reputation precedes you, where your excellence speaks louder than words, where your presence alone announces your value. You see, it is not enough to be competent. The world demands distinction. It is not enough to participate. The world rewards influence. It is not enough to exist. The world celebrates presence. And the person who works on themselves every day understands this truth. Excellence is not built on chance. It is built on choice. It is built on the decisions you make in private, the habits you cultivate in silence, and the effort you sustain when recognition is absent. There is a level of life where people no longer ask who you are, because the results of your labor, the consistency of your actions, the integrity of your character, and the quality of your presence have already declared it. And that is the power of self-investment, the power of relentless improvement, the power of working on yourself until your name carries weight without a single introduction. When you commit to this path, you begin to see the shift. You begin to notice the respect that comes naturally, the opportunities that seem to find you, the influence that grows quietly but steadily. You no longer chase validation. Validation finds you. You no longer explain your worth. Your worth explains itself. And every day, as you push further, as you refine your skills, as you strengthen your mind, spirit, you are building a life that cannot be ignored, a life that cannot be questioned, a life that does not require introduction. I want you to hear this and take it deep into your spirit. Working on yourself is the most powerful investment you will ever make. It is the work that nobody else can do for you. It is the effort that no one can replicate, the sacrifices that no one can make in your place, and the discipline that cannot be borrowed. Too many people live their lives trying to impress others, trying to be seen, trying to be recognized without ever doing the hard work of becoming the person who deserves to be seen, but there is a higher way of living. There is a level of life where your excellence, your integrity, and your mastery create a presence so undeniable that you do not have to speak your name. Your life speaks it for you, and the world cannot deny it. This is the power of working on yourself until the point where introduction becomes unnecessary. It starts with commitment. It begins with a refusal to settle for what is easy, comfortable, or familiar. It begins with a declaration that mediocrity will not define your life. The person who works on themselves understands that growth is not automatic, success is not random, and influence is not a gift. It is cultivated. Every skill learned, every habit formed, every challenge overcome is an investment into a future where you command respect without having to demand it. You understand that preparation precedes opportunity, that mastery precedes recognition, and that character precedes success. The work you do on yourself in private becomes the evidence the world sees in public, and it is the quiet persistence, the daily discipline, the unseen effort that turns ordinary people into extraordinary presences. There will be struggles. There will be moments when the weight of improvement feels heavy, when doubt tries to convince you that you are not enough, when fear whispers that your efforts are in vain. But those moments are the forge of greatness. Those moments are where resilience is born, where courage is strengthened, and where faith in yourself grows beyond what you once imagined. Working on yourself requires embracing discomfort, leaning into challenge, and choosing consistency over convenience. It requires patience, perseverance, and the determination to rise every time you stumble. The difference between those who must explain themselves and those whose names are already known is the willingness to endure the struggle, to embrace the grind, and to commit to self-mastery despite obstacles. As you work on yourself, you begin to cultivate a presence that commands attention naturally. You become a person whose actions speak louder than words, whose results demand acknowledgement, and whose character inspires respect. People notice excellence because it is rare. They are drawn to integrity because it is uncommon. They are influenced by discipline because it produces results that cannot be ignored. And the beauty of it is that none of this requires boasting. None of this requires explanation. None of this requires the validation of others. Your life itself becomes your introduction. Your achievements, your consistency, your unwavering commitment, self-improvement precede you. You no longer need to convince anyone of your value because your presence, your work, and your impact have already done it for you. You see, the world recognizes power, influence, and greatness when it is embodied authentically. It recognizes those who have invested in themselves, who have honed their skills, who have refined their character, and who have committed to the relentless pursuit of becoming extraordinary. There is a freedom, a confidence, and a quiet authority that comes from knowing you are prepared, that you are ready, that you have done the work. That is the level where you no longer introduce yourself, because your name, your reputation, and your presence carry the weight of your excellence. Every day that you choose to invest in yourself, to improve, to refine, and to strengthen your mind, your body, your skills, and your spirit, you move closer to that place where the world knows your worth without you ever having to say a word.